Hello and welcome. We are going to continue this Unity tutorial today, and specifically, we are talking about the game design aspects, more so the juice and what makes the game feel good. Today, we're not going to be touching any code. All the code in this project was the last Unity tutorial. We can move around and we can collide with this object and it can bounce around. Now, the goal of this game overall is to bounce this object to a specific point. We'll have a goal scenario. When it hits there, it would generate a new level. But we do not care about any of that. We want this to feel as good as possible. So what does that mean? How do you make something feel good? Well, we have to play with the senses. We want to focus really specific on the sound effects. We want to focus on the color palette. And all of these things kind of come together, and you slowly add on more and more. And without further ado, let's go over to our internet browser. So here I have a Humble Bumble pack, different sound effects. Now, there's a few areas you can get sound effects from. So opengameart.org has a fantastic sound effect and music library. Just kind of waiting for this to open. Interesting. Seems like we have some type of slowdown there, but such as life. And you can come over to I believe it should be browse. Yeah, so there's music, sound effects. You can even get assets, textures, that type of thing. We're definitely gonna do sound effects, but first, looking here, we have white walls, we have a blue player, and a red object here, and purple background. A lot of these colors clash, and it doesn't really have any specificality to it. One thing a teacher has taught me is every speck of dust should have a meaning. And really, practically speaking, you can be as granular as that statement or take it more wholesome, meaning everything you do must be done with intention. So here, I'm going to go to Adobe Color Palette, and it has a generator here. We're going to pick a color or two, and from there, we're going to allow it to really, kind of choose what would match for us. This is much easier to make things look like they belong together than choosing random colors. And this actually does affect how your game feels overall. So I'm just kind of dragging this around, and I do know I want the player to remain blue, and I kind of like this blue here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that color. I'm going to come up to this, and I think I'm going to do either complementary or split complementary. Take a split here. In here, I'm going to hit change color, and I'm going to paste in that value that I initially wanted. So this is the color palette that it generated. These colors are split complementary to each other, and we don't have to necessarily pick this first go, right? So we can come down here to complementary, paste that color back in, kind of see what colors we get. If we go to the triad, same thing. And I kind of like this, right? So we have this blue, this red, this yellow. This could be the goal, right? It's like, it really is like, hey, I'm important. The red could continue to be the object we're hitting. And then these could be great background colors. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this color here. I'm going to come back over to Unity and click on our player. And under color here, I'm going to paste in our color. And then similarly here, for the red guy, we'll copy this red color, we'll go back, and we'll paste this in. Now for our background here. If we go back over to the color palette, let's go ahead and do this color here. We will paste that in there. And then these walls, so let me go back here. Let's kind of do one of these. So I will copy, and then we'll grab onto these walls here. We'll paste in that color. And similarly, since these are also walls, you want to keep in mind that whatever you're communicating to your player maintains a certain paradigm. You don't want to confuse them, and having things be different colors, can create that issue. Now, one thing here as well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this color, and we're going to go into complementary. I'm going to paste that color there. And this gives us colors that complement this, right? And so I'm going to copy this shade of blue, and that's what I'm going to use for our background. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And now these things feel a little bit better, right? They have a little bit more harmony between them. And that's a great way to kind of look at it, is the harmony. And it's almost like, this player, he's a little bit too out of place in a sense, right? And I'm gonna just kind of move this wall a little closer. Same with this, just a micro adjustment there. Maybe with these walls as well. Go ahead and hit play again. And the fact that the player and this ball kind of stand out isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, right? Because we really want to draw the player's attention to those objects. Those are the most important objects in the scene. And with that being said, that goal area, so if we click back here on the player, and this color palette here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. If we come back over and go back into our triad here and paste that in, that yellow color here would be a fantastic thing for the goal. So if I came over and I said, hey, I'm going to create a 2D sprite circular game object, I'm going to put it right in this corner. I'm going to make the layer 2, and we're going to paste this color in here like this. And then I'm going to actually scale this down to a 0.25. So 0.25 tab. Oops, that's caps lock. That's why. That might be a little small, so let's try 0.5. That seems to be about good. And this way, we're kind of communicating to the player like, hey, this object here is important. This object is also important. And then we ourselves are important. And the rest is just, there. And because we know as soon as we interact with that ball that it bounced off the walls, the other objects it can bounce off of to communicate that clearly should be of the same shade. One thing I notice here, of course, the layer is a little funky. It looks like that yellow is sitting on top of both of these guys. And if we look here, order and layer, I'm going to do 2 and 2 for those. And now, of course, because they're a different layer, they will appear on top. So from there, so we chose a color, and it may not be the best color, yada, yada, yada. The more time you spend on that type of stuff, the more you can narrow that in, and it's actually very important to. But here, we're going to go over, move quickly into sounds. So I'm just going to kind of look around here. let's see, we got Magic Sound Effects Master Collection. That's quite large. 16-bit action platformer music. Combat loops. Pixel game sounds. That might be something we go for. Just kind of mobile game audio, UI sound effects. That's quite large. Quiz, that might be. You know what? Let's go ahead with the Pixel guy, just for sake of picking something. So, this is going to download. It's going to take a couple minutes. I won't have this sound in the description at all. This is something I paid for through Humble Bumble. But you could quite easily come over here to browse sound effects, and you can search things like, if I wanted like a bounce sound, right? So you can find a lot of this stuff, and you download it. One program I would highly suggest is Audacity. This is going to allow you guys to take individual sounds, kind of merge them together, and create a beautiful sound. I'm not a sound designer. I used to play drums a little bit back in the day, but by far I am no musician. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. So here is our zip file. I'm going to drag that out, and we have some waves. I'm going to go with the 16-bit, and then we're just going to kind of look here. Let's go into Mix SFX. Just kind of looking. So it looks like there's a gun load. I'm not sure what this is. Okay, kind of sound like a shot in a way, or a power strike. Okay. It's an engine. Okay. Door. All right. So we got a door. Interesting. And let's see, bells. So, when we hit that goal, might be nice. Especially if we pair it with something else. Interesting. Let's see, casual mallets. And door 2. So that's door 2. And what is, let's do a power strike again. Interesting. Okay, so let's go about doing some stuff. I'm going to click on Audacity here. And I kind of liked this one. So we're going to go like that. And I'm going to hit play. It's got kind of like that, a little bit of sci-fi to it at the end. Right? So that's kind of nice. Let's hear this. Okay, so those are those. Let's hear. I'm not digging those. Let's come in the 8-bit renders. Extra strike hit impact. Okay. That's a little too bright. I kind of like that. Okay. So coming through here, I'm going to add that there. Now we got 2 of these sounds. And I think just a little bit more, we can have something quite interesting. Let's add that one as well. I'm thinking this is going to be it. So I'm going to hit File, Export, and I'm going to export it as a wave. I'm going to come over here into Music, and I'm going to right-click make a, actually it's not right clicking in Ubuntu as it would be in Windows. For Ubuntu, I got a little folder up here, and I'm just going to call this YouTube tutorial Unity. And here I'm going to save this as impact.wave. Hit save, hit OK, and OK. And then I'm going to come into that folder. So music, YouTube tutorial. Here's my impact.wave. I'm going to move it off to the other screen. Come over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag this into this window here, but I want it in the right folder. So I do have a game folder here, and we just kind of have our script sitting there. So for now, I'm also just going to throw impact there. We'll go over organization in a different area. Right now we're going through, right? We made some simple scripts last video, and this video is simply just, hey, let's make some things happen. So here, we kind of want this sound to happen when this object is hit. Seems simple enough, right? So how do we do that? How are we going to go and make that effect happen? Well, let's just try to play around here. We know that this is our object, so I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to type in sound, and I don't see anything. And when I backspace a little bit, I see audio source. Let's hit play, or add that component to this object, and it looks like it can take in a sound here. So if I hit that, this menu pops up. Looks like there's also an output. Don't really care about output, and I'm going to drag our input there and play on awake. So if I hit play, so we hear that, but we only want that to play when we impact that object, right? So even if we hit loop here, so play on awake and loop, we're just going to hear it, right? But again, you only want that to happen on impact. So I'm going to uncheck both of those. And we need a way to play this audio source when that object is hit. So similarly, in bounce here, and I know I said we wouldn't really touch much on code, but here, kind of hard to avoid. So I'm going to open up our bounce script here, and right here, on collision enter, this is where we need to play that audio source. And this is going to be quite simple, I think. So one thing is we need a way for this object to know about this audio source. And more specifically, we need the script that is on that object to know about the audio source. So I'm going to make an audio source area that we can put this audio source in. So back in our code here, if we do I'm going to type in audio source, notice it's going to populate. And here, we're going to do a get component. Looks like it wants to kind of auto-populate that for us. I don't think that's too necessary. We can do a serialized field here. I'm going to do Control-Shift-I, just formats that for us. And that way, I'm going to file save. I'm going to close out of that error-looking thing. It doesn't matter. I'm going to hit refresh here. And this is going to reload our script. And so I'm going to go back to here. And if we scroll down, notice there's an audio source. And if I click and drag, boom, now our script knows about this audio source. So that's step one. Step two is we need to play this audio source when this happens. So on collision enter 2D, if it's hit with the player or hit with the wall. Seems simple enough. And since it's going to be hit with either, I think it should be okay to not put it in an if statement. Maybe, maybe not, but kind of seems right. Because no matter what we impact with, we want the sound to play. So here, I'm going to type in our audio source. So, and it looks like it's got a dot play. I'm going to hit File, Save. I'm going to go back to Unity and refresh again. And we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to hit play. And we're going to bump into the object. Now, one thing, notice that sound is going to play a lot. Boom, 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 boom. And realistically, if you have a sound that's going to play all the time, your players are going to hear it, and you don't want it to be annoying. You want it to be, a little bit more subtle and random. So how can we do that? How can we make this sound kind of, change a little bit, right? So, of course we have this pitch thing here. We have a volume. So I'm going to change the volume to, let's try like 0.5. And then the pitch, let's bring that down to 0.75 just for this. And the idea is when we hit and play this sound, and now I'm going to bring the pitch up to 1.5, we want to kind of randomize that pitch and probably randomize the volume a little bit. Right? So one thing here, I'm going to bring that back to a 1, and I'm going to bring the volume back to a 1. We want to control these things in code. So how are we going to do that, right? Like, what's the idea here? How can we say, hey, every now and again play this sound, play that sound? Well, let's try it. So without really knowing a whole lot, let's say, whatever, I'm just going to type in random. Okay, I see random. I'm going to hit tab. Random.range. Okay, between 0 and 2. And this number, let's see, so it represents a pseudo-random number generator, which is an algorithm that produces a sequence of numbers that meet certain statistical requirements for randomness. And here, I'm going to say float random equals this. And I'm going to say debug.log random. File, save, and then I'm going to go back into Unity. I'm going to hit refresh. And it goes, okay, debug is ambiguous, and that's because my code editor decided to throw in system.diagnostics because I'm on Ubuntu. This is the best probably way I can put that. We're going to go in the console and hit play. And what I want to see visually is what number is being produced when I hit that. So it's a number, more specifically, it's an integer, 0, 1, right? Because this number is going to be between 0 and 2. And so let's do 0 to 5. And I'm going to say if random, oh, and notice what it's doing for us with this auto population. I kind of like this, but I'm not going to hit tab. I'm just going to say, hey, if it's less than 3, then our audio source dot pitch, so audio source dot pitch is going to be, and I kind of like that 0.5 range. Otherwise, our audio pitch is going to be 1.5. Yeah, maybe 1.2, right? And then similarly, if it's this one, let's just say, higher pitch, lower volume, lower pitch, higher volume, right? So let's go audio source dot volume, and here we'll do audio source dot volume and make this like a 0. Lower, higher, right? Okay, file, save. We're going to come into here. I'm going to refresh again. Don't worry about this. It's, I am online. It's just Ubuntu being strange today. And I'm going to bump into this object. And you can notice, like, okay, it was better than it was the first time. But again, it wasn't necessarily like the end all be all in a sense, right? Like, it was like they're a little bit too different. And so here, we can kind of keep these pitches a little bit closer together, and the volume a little bit closer together as well. And of course, if you wanted to, we can, adjust this a little bit more, right? So if we had like 0 through 10, if it's, less than 3, do this thing. If it's less than 7 and greater than or equal to 3, do this thing. Otherwise, if it's even more so above that, just checking here because we have a volume of 0.5. And I want the pitch here to be, we're going to stay within a range. So I'm going to say 0.45 and 0.65. And then for here, also I want the volume to be in the same spot just for visual, right? Pitch, volume, pitch, volume. And here, the pitch will be, I'm going to go 6.5, and the volume to be 6.0. File, save all, go back into Unity here, refresh. And if you're on Windows, it's very likely you don't have to hit refresh. It'll do all that automatically for you because Windows, Windows is Windows. So we'll hit this object. And to me, it's still a bit loud. And the other thing too, if you notice, the sound can overlap itself because it's always playing when it hits. And we kind of want it to stop playing before it starts playing. Sounds kind of weird, right? But if we do audio source dot, let's try to stop there. Now I think it's going to be capital S. Just kind of where my brain kind of thinks it's going to be. We'll know as soon as I refresh. It's going to either error or not. That looks like good. But the volume, I think, needs to be down. Right. So I think the volume should go down quite a bit. So let's do like a 0.3. 0.35 and a 0.4 and a pitch between 0.4, 0.45 and 0.5. Go ahead and hit play. And I think the volume is still a little bit high. So let's do 0.2. 0.25, and you know what? We'll do 0.2 for this as well. File, save, refresh, and then we'll save the Unity project itself as well. But you kind of get the idea, right? It is the idea of making these sounds random enough that because they're a repeating sound, you don't want the player to get bored, gun sounds, anything that is a repeated action that's heard a lot should be different. And I think that's a lot better sound-wise. It's not obtrusive, And so now we really just want this sound here to happen as well. So I'm going to actually tag this. I'm going to add a tag here. I'm going to hit plus. Oh, looks like my tag system is off the screen on my other side. But I'm going to give this a tag name as goal. And then we're going to click back on that. And I'm going to make its tag goal. I'm going to file, save, go over here to Visual Code. And we're going to go here. If collision.gameObject.tag is goal, and notice this is a on collision enter, and like this sound is going to play. This could get kind of like, well, which if statement should I have the audio source in, yada yada yada. How about this? Make it a little bit different, and overall likely better. So here I'm gonna make a new script. I know I said no scripts, but trust me, this is gonna be better here. So let's go scripting, and I'm gonna do a mono behavior script. And notice that's also up here, so that's kind of nice. Here I'm gonna call this goal, and kind of let this reload. We're gonna double click here. I'm going to delete these. I'm going to make an audio source here. And we're going to make this a serialized field. And that way, this goal can have its own serialized field area. And also, instead of a on collision enter, I want an on trigger enter, right? When you have a collision, it's going to stop that movement. But if we have a triggerable area, it's not going to stop that movement. So here, I'm going to add let's go ahead and do a box collider. I think this will be fine, honestly. You could do a circle collider. Really doesn't matter. The main thing is this is trigger needs to be hit. And I don't think we need a rigid body. I could be wrong, but I don't think we need it. And because that has a box collider with a is trigger, I'm going to go back to Visual Code here. I'm going to look at bounce for a minute, just see if we have. Yeah, looks fine. I was just kind of seeing if we mentioned the collider at all there. And it looks like it has a on collision enter. And instead of player here, really what we want is the other object. And I'm going to click on that guy there, that capsule one. And it looks like both of these guys were tagged as player, which is kind of funny. We really don't want him as player. We want him as something separate. So I'm going to call this ball. Go back here, and we're going to tag that as ball. Technically as well, right now, I'm going to go ahead, we're going to name this player. I'm going to click on these here, and I'm going to name these wall. I'm going to name this goal. I'm going to name this ball, and then I'm going to make a empty game object here, and I'm going to call this world, and I'm going to make sure it's 0, 0. Then I'm going to take all my walls here, and I'm going to drag it into world like that. And then, let's see, square. Square is the, really the world space, the ground, however you want to look at that. And we're going to set ground in there as well. And then notice we just have kind of a main camera, player, ball, and goal. This is just kind of an organization thing. You do want to name your things. You do want to keep them relatively organized. Last video I went quite quickly, really didn't care about the organization, but here I think is a great place to do this, just to kind of help some things. Now notice we're going to have this audio source.play again if it is the ball. And what we're going to do here, so I'm going to go back into bounce, and I'm going to steal that randomness and go like this, Control-Shift-I. I think this is fine to just kind of copy paste like that in this case, because really we still want some type of randomness to happen, and why rewrite some stuff? So here I'm going to close out of Audacity. So boom, let's see, do you want to save? No. And I'm going to save Unity. It's good to save often, just in case you have crashes. I'm going to save Visual Code. And we're going to go back into files here. I'm going to go into my downloads and check out this audio folder real quick. What do we got going on here? Oh, yeah, let's not worry about that. I'm going to go back into here. And let's go into the melodic category. I kind of like that. That seems like, hey, I just did something, right? It's like, oh, made the goal, and that's the purpose of this. You want the player to feel good, and I mean that's fantastic. That's another version. What do those sound like together? I didn't really like the ending of that, so I'm going to come up to that point and delete. We're going to come back here. It was kind of better with that little ending, right? But maybe a little long. So, this is the thing. You really want to spend time, and not quite. So I'm going to hit Control Z. I wonder if it's that little jig jag right there. Yeah, so I'm going to try about there. Back. This is going to be funny, but what if we just did that? Maybe that little tail at the end. Not too bad. I'm going to go back into here. No, we don't want that. Not quite. So I'm going to come back in here. We're going to go into Mix Sound Effects, and we're going to go back into Cartoon. Oh, that's kind of a nice one. And so you can get really creative with these. And I don't like that at all. So what I'm going to do is say no. I'm going to open up Audacity again. I kind of prefer that Dreamy Bells. Oh. See where that Dreamy Bells went. Nope. Maybe. Kinda not. I think it's this one. Definitely not. So let's do this Dreamy Bells, and then that, and then just kind of see how these are together. Not bad, right? So let's try it. So File, Export, Wave, and here we're going to call this one Goal, Save, boom, okay. We can go ahead and close out of this. And back to Unity. I'm going to close out of this here, go into my files, music, YouTube, go back into here, and throw in Goal. Then similarly here for Goal, we're going to need a audio source area. There, I'm going to throw in the Goal. Once this, yep, there we go. And then the script that needs to be here is also Goal. So just kind of making sure we're there. Add a component, script, we're going to throw in our audio source, File, Save, hit play. And I didn't hear it. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely did not hear that. Let's try that again. Make sure the Goal is there, and this audio source is there. Looks like it's on Play on Awake, so we do not want that. And now let's try to hit the ball there. So I'm going to go like that. And I definitely am not hearing it when it is there. So let's take a look here. So Goal, on collision, enter, or on trigger, enter, collision, if game object dot tag is ball, play its audio source. It has an audio source. Here we have a is trigger. And definitely no sound there. So I'm just going to kind of look here at bounce, and it looks like GameObject.tag. Go back over to Goal, GameObject.tag. We're going to check the spelling of ball as the tag. It is in fact ball. So here I'm kind of under the assumption that we do need a rigid body component. So I'm going to do a rigid body 2D. Ooh, it's a box collider. Let me remove a component. Box collider 2D is trigger. Let's go ahead and try that. Because there's a, and that's the other part too in the code. And that time we heard it. And so, yeah, the issue there was the wrong type of collider type. Didn't need a rigid body. You do want to make sure 2D is 2D type of shenanigans here in Unity. But yeah, so to kind of summarize this, if you choose a proper color palette, if you add the right sounds, you can make the game feel better just with little bits of that. Now there's still a couple things here. when the player bounces into these walls, you definitely would want some type of feedback to the player, some type of sound, just like when we bounce that. And then the other thing is particle effects, some type of, yeah, you know what? I think we got a little bit of time. You guys want to do particle effects? Let's try to do this. So let's go take a look here. See if we can find some 2D general. Oh, just kind of looking here. Effects, okay. Probably should have looked there first. So we got effects. I see particle system, trail renderer, line renderer, visual effect, particle system, force field, wind zone. Let's just go ahead and do a particle system. And this is, in fact, on our ball here. So I was clicked on ball, then I went up to component and did our effects, then particle system. You probably can just add component particle system as well. You know, if I did PART, yeah, you can find those. So it's just different ways to go about these things. And let's just see here. So start color, again, you know, back to the color palette theory, you'd want something that kind of matches a little bit. So Adobe Color Palette, here we're going to go back into Unity. I'm going to make sure I'm on ball. I'm going to come up, grab this color here. So out of my color, I'm going to grab that hexadecimal value, I'm going to come back over, change color, paste, enter, and I'm going to take this color here, so copy that. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we're going to take this one. And here, ball, going to come back, boom, and we're going to paste that color. Okay, so now we're going to want some type of effect here. So it's looping, start, delay, lifetime, size, rotation, 2D physics, local world. You know, we're going to do a rigid body. Max particles is 1,000. Let's go ahead and hit play, see what happens here. Quite curious. Yeah, not really. Oh. In fact, they are on a different layer. So, interesting. So how do we, where's my layers? Interesting. Definitely want to find, so since I don't see it right away, I'm going to say Unity particle system, how to have on same layer. And we're going to wait for this. So to have a Unity particle system on the same layer as other objects like Sprite UI, you must use the render module setting. And so in the Unity inspector, expand the render module at the bottom of your particle system component, locate sorting layer. So render module. So we're going to come down here. Pre-word render. Okay, I see it. Oh, so we can expand that. And then layer. Because I see rendering layer mask. But we want sorting. It's a sorting fudge. That's interesting. Sorting layer ID, order and layer, boom. A 3. So now we should see that above. Ah, and it's nasty purple looking. And it's, you know, covering everywhere and doing all kinds of disgusting looking things. Oh, I guess we can hit play like that too. Okay, so that's going to help. So I'll hit stop. Here, you know, that's a start color, but it didn't seem to be, you know, taking that. So let's try. Just kind of looking here. Have a material. Interesting. So let's try making a material. So create material, and I'm going to click here. Looks like a material takes in a texture. So let's try, like, I don't know, that for a second. And let's go back over here. Come back over to particle. Go like that. Let's see what kind of changes we get. Okay. Not terrible. I think we're going to leave it like this, but we definitely only want that particle effect to trigger when we impact, and then we want it to disappear a little bit quicker. So I see triggers. I'm going to click. Maybe not. Maybe try collision. Oh, let's try bounce. I'm not sure what that does. Never seen that before. Does that mean I bounce off the particles or whatnot? Doesn't seem to. So let's go back into collision there, and I'll close that. Close triggers as well. And so what I'm going to look up here, just real quick, how to trigger a particle system to play in Unity. And, you know, this UI overview is typically the, unfortunately, quicker way to go about this. So, okay, it looks like we do make a variable, we play it, on trigger enter, on restarting versus resuming, calling play on the system is already playing. We'll reset it back time to 0, effectively restarting the effect. Play on awake, yada yada yada. Okay, so we want to turn off play on awake. So this is very similar to the sounds, right? So let's find play on awake. So boom, that's off. And then for the bouncing guy here, we can do a, just do a serialized field type doohickey here. And then instead of audio source, we're going to do particle, so particle system, like so. And then here, we will do a particle system.play, file, save, and we'll reload. We'll see if those keywords are in fact correct. And then we'll throw in that particle system. So here, bounce that particle system hides inherited member component top particle system. Use the new keyword. Hiding was intended. Use the new keyword is new. So go like that. See if because this is just a. Let's do a refresh here. This is just kind of like a warning doesn't really necessarily mean anything too much for us, I don't think. So we'll file, save. Just going to refresh one more time. Then I'm going to throw that system onto the ball there. Radio. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop there. And then we'll close that down kind of like that. And the particle system goes there. So boom, hit play. So we should not see the particle system until impact. But we also kind of want it to disappear, right? So try it like that. I only want to see this when the player touches it, otherwise I don't want to see it. And then we'll do similar with the goal. And then customizing the particle system is a little bit more in depth. Right. I'm not digging that so much. So let's go back to particle system here. We're going to say the duration is 1. Lifetime is 1. Start speed is like 20. Start size 0.25. Just kind of looking here. Max particles, maybe like 10. Destroy for the stop action. Try it like that. Not quite sure what this will what'll happen here, but whoa. Did that just kill our ball? What was that? I think stop action destroyed our guy. That's kind of what I think there. That's interesting. And the particle size were a little small. I did not know that would do that. Interesting. And, you know, with it like spreading out like that, it's not quite what we want. We more want like a hit and like a flash in a sense. Let's see here. I'm not quite sure how to do that. I myself would have to look up a tutorial to know exactly how to get that effect to happen. But, you know, with that said, the main thing that we're looking for is matching a color palette, having sound effects, and maintaining that for the game design. With that, take it easy.